I've always loved the sound of falling snow. It isn't loud, yet it swallows everything. It's the kind of silence that presses against your ears until your own thoughts feel too sharp. Like watching lightning split the sky or catching a shooting star mid-fall. It's rare, uncontrollable, and when it happens, you feel chosen. I'm not the hiking type, not even close, but when snow begins to fall at night, something inside me itches, a craving I can't explain, like the woods are whispering my name. That night, I lived near a wooded area, not deep forest, not officially the woods, but close enough that dense trees waited just a short drive away. I had no responsibilities the next day. It was probably a Saturday. I remember being slightly hungover from the night before, my head dull, my judgment dulled even more. The strange part was that snow wasn't in the forecast. I knew that because I obsessively checked the weather every winter night, as if predicting snow gave me some sense of control. I was sitting in my room reading when it started, instantly. No gradual build-up, no warning. One moment the world was bare, and the next it was being smothered in white, as if someone had flipped a switch in the sky. By the time I noticed, the ground was already buried. I didn't think, I didn't hesitate, I grabbed my keys. The trail I drove to was secluded, an old hiking path that rarely saw visitors, especially at night. When I stepped out of my car, the snow was still falling hard, thick flakes drifting down like ash from a dying world. I stood there for a moment, letting the cold seep into my bones, then started walking. I had no destination, only one goal: go deeper. After about 20 minutes, I stopped. The trees were thicker here, their branches twisted and skeletal, heavy with snow. The silence was complete, unnatural. The kind of silence that makes you aware of your own breathing, your own heartbeat. That's when I heard it, a sound that did not belong. At first, my brain refused to accept it. I told myself it was the wind or snow slipping from branches. But then it came again, clearer this time. A child's voice, a little boy, calling out softly, "Hi." The word echoed through the trees, bouncing from direction to direction, making it impossible to tell where it came from. My stomach dropped. Every instinct screamed that I was no longer alone. I spun around. Nothing. No movement. No footprints. Just endless white and dark watching trees. I told myself my mind was playing tricks on me, that fear was filling in gaps that didn't exist. Then the voice spoke again, closer. "Up here, silly." Without thinking, without wanting to, I looked up, and that's when I saw him. He was sitting on a tree branch. A little boy, no older than 9, perched casually on a branch at least 20 feet above the ground, as if gravity had simply decided not to apply to him. Snow rested on his shoulders and hat, yet none of it slid off. He was dressed for the cold, thick jacket, gloves, boots, like someone had prepared him to wait there. What didn't make sense was how he got there. The tree was perfectly straight, no low branches, no knots, no marks. Even an experienced climber would struggle, yet there he sat, legs dangling, smiling down at me. And that smile, it wasn't normal. It was wide, too wide, like someone who hadn't learned how to smile properly had stretched their face into the shape of one, teeth showing, eyes unblinking. Strangely, seeing him calmed me, just a little. Not because he was harmless, but because at least now I knew where the voice was coming from. I walked closer, never taking my eyes off him. That's when the dread fully set in. There were no footprints around the tree. None. The snow had been falling for at least 45 minutes. If he'd climbed up after it started, there would have been tracks, but the ground beneath the tree was pristine, untouched, which meant one thing. He had already been there before the snow started, watching, waiting. I asked him how he got up there. He tilted his head slightly and said, "That's a secret." Then he smiled again. My stomach twisted. Every part of me knew this was wrong. This child didn't belong out here, alone, silent, suspended above the forest floor like some grotesque ornament. I didn't know what to do. Before I could speak again, he stood up on the branch. Perfect balance, no slipping, no fear. He looked down at me and said cheerfully, "Watch this." Then he leaned backward and fell. He dropped like a stone, 30 feet. I screamed. The sound that followed, the impact was sickening, a wet, hollow thud that echoed through the trees. No scream, no cry, just silence. There was no way he survived that. I ran. My heart was hammering as I reached the spot where his body should have been broken, twisted, dead. But before I could reach him, he sprang up like nothing had happened. Not limping, not gasping, not injured. He turned, looked straight at me, and ran deeper into the woods, laughing. Not giggling, cackling, a sound full of delight, sharp and cruel, slicing through the snowy silence. My brain refused to accept what my eyes had seen. That fall should have killed him. There was no explanation, none. And yet, instead of running back to my car, I chased him. I don't know what possessed me to chase him. Every rational part of my mind was screaming at me to turn back, to run, to survive. But something stronger pulled me forward, like invisible strings wrapped around my spine, dragging me deeper into the woods. I followed his footprints easily. They were small, light, almost playful. As I ran, I could hear him laughing ahead of me, not the joyful laughter of a child, but something twisted, mocking, like he was enjoying every second of my fear. Then it happened. As I passed a nearby tree, something slammed into my back. I hit the ground hard, the breath exploding out of my lungs. Before I could even scream, he was on top of me, the boy. His weight felt wrong, heavier than it should have been. His fingers dug into my neck and shoulders, claws instead of hands. He started shrieking, a high-pitched animal sound that cut straight into my skull. I felt warm blood spill down my chest. His fingernails tore into my skin, ripping, scratching, carving lines into my neck. I thrashed wildly, my vision blurring, convinced he was going to tear my throat open or blind me. Somehow, adrenaline took over. I forced myself upright, and with every ounce of strength I had, I threw him over my shoulder. He hit the ground and immediately stood up, unhurt, still smiling, still laughing. Then he ran, vanishing into the trees like smoke, his laughter echoing long after he disappeared. This time I didn't follow. I stood there shaking, blood dripping from my hands, my neck burning with pain. If it weren't for the deep cuts and the blood soaking my gloves, I might have believed none of it was real. I ripped off my hat and wrapped it tightly around my neck, trying to stop the bleeding. My hands trembled violently. I was hyperventilating, on the verge of losing consciousness. The next 20 minutes are mostly gone from my memory. Terror does that. The next clear moment I remember is waking up in the back of an ambulance. Bright lights, voices, questions I could barely answer. I told the police everything, over and over. They listened with blank faces. Later, they told me something that broke me. They had searched the entire area. They found only one set of footprints, mine. No child's tracks, no struggle, no signs of anyone else, just me, alone in the snow. Days later, I returned to the trail, desperate to prove I hadn't lost my mind, but fresh snowfall had erased everything. The forest stood silent, untouched, as if nothing had ever happened. That was years ago. I still don't know what that thing was, but I know one thing for certain. It was not a child.
This happened during winter break of my sophomore year in college. I was 19 and had the house to myself for almost 2 weeks. At first, it felt like freedom. By the second week, it felt like isolation. Then, the storm hit. The forecasts had been warning everyone: historic snowfall, dangerous conditions, stay indoors. For once, they weren't exaggerating. By Saturday morning, nearly a foot of snow had already buried the ground, and it was still coming down hard. Plows couldn't keep up. By late afternoon, the roads were completely impassable. My neighborhood wasn't a typical suburb. The houses were spread far apart, separated by long stretches of woods. In summer, it was peaceful. In winter, especially during a storm like that, it felt abandoned, like the world had quietly ended while no one was looking. By around 6 p.m., I was losing my mind from boredom. To make things worse, the Wi-Fi had gone out while I was sleeping. No games, no videos, no distractions, just silence and the relentless howl of wind outside. That's when I had what I thought was a funny idea. My only close friend from home was a guy named Ryan. I knew he was around. I'd hung out with him the day before. His house was about 1.5 miles away. The roads were undrivable, sure, but I figured walking wouldn't be that bad. I imagined showing up at his door completely covered in snow, both of us laughing about it later. Looking back, it was stupid. But I was 19, bored, and not thinking clearly. I bundled up and stepped outside. The snow had finally stopped falling, leaving everything buried under a thick, untouched white blanket. Streetlights cast an eerie glow, making the world look artificial, like a frozen photograph. The only sounds were my breathing and the crunch of snow under my boots. There wasn't a single car on the road, not a single person. About halfway to Ryan's house, the route passed through a stretch with no homes at all, just trees, empty lots, and darkness. During the day, it was nothing special. That night, it felt wrong. That's when I noticed the headlights, far ahead, coming from the direction I was walking. I stopped and watched as they slowly approached. It was a snowplow, moving painfully slow. I remember feeling relieved. Someone else was out here. Then, without warning, it swerved violently to the right. The plow cut across the road and disappeared into the tree line. There was a muffled, crushing sound, and then silence. My heart dropped. Someone had crashed. Without thinking, I started running to where I'd seen the lights vanish. Fighting through deep snow, my mind fixed on one thought: someone needs help. It took me a few minutes to reach the spot, and when I finally saw it, my blood ran cold. Snowplow was exactly where I thought it would be. Its front end was crushed against a thick tree, metal twisted inward like a broken jaw. The headlights were still on, cutting weak beams through the falling snow. The engine was running, rumbling softly, as if the vehicle itself didn't realize it was dead. I ran up to the driver's side, my heart pounding, already preparing myself for what I might see. I looked inside. The seat was empty. No slumped body, no blood, no movement. For a moment, my brain refused to process it. I told myself the driver must have been thrown from the plow. That had to be it. I circled the vehicle, scanning the snow for footprints or drag marks. There were none. I checked the passenger side. Empty. I yanked the driver's door open, frustration rising, half expecting to find someone collapsed below the steering wheel. Nothing. The cab was completely empty. The plow was still running, still warm, still alive. But whoever had been driving it was gone. I stood there in the snow, staring at the wreck, every nerve in my body screaming that something was deeply, fundamentally wrong. There was nowhere the driver could have gone without leaving tracks. The snow was untouched in every direction. That's when I felt it. A sudden, overwhelming pressure in my chest. Not fear, instinct, the kind that bypasses logic and goes straight to survival. Leave now. I backed away slowly, my eyes never leaving the plow. The headlights seemed brighter somehow, almost watching me. When I finally turned around, I started walking fast, then faster, back the way I had come. That's when I heard it. A voice behind me, a man's voice, yelling desperately, "Help me!" Every part of me wanted to turn around. That was why I came out here. That was the whole reason. But my body refused. My legs moved on their own. I started running. The snow made it hard, but I pushed through it, my lungs burning. As I got farther away, I heard the voice again, closer, impossibly close, like it had crossed dozens of feet in a single second. I didn't look back. I ran the rest of the way to Ryan's house, my mind unraveling with every step. When his mom opened the door, her smile vanished the moment she saw me. I must have looked insane, wide-eyed, shaking, soaked in snow. I told them everything. Ryan's dad called the police. While we waited, Ryan kept trying to rationalize it. Maybe the driver had walked away before I arrived. Maybe stress was messing with my head. But I knew what I'd seen, or rather, what I hadn't seen. When the police finally arrived, they dropped the bombshell. They said they had searched the entire road. There were no tire tracks, no signs of a crash, no evidence that a snowplow had ever been there at all. One of the officers accused me of making the story up. I nearly begged them to believe me. They didn't. They left, and the silence that felt heavier than the storm itself. I stayed at Ryan's house that night. There was no way I was walking back home in the dark, not after what I'd seen, or what I shouldn't have seen. Even inside his warm, well-lit house, I couldn't stop shaking. Every sound outside made my muscles tense, like something was waiting just beyond the windows. The next morning, after the storm finally died down and the roads were cleared, Ryan's dad drove me home. The world looked normal again. Too normal. Plows had carved clean paths through the snow. Cars were moving. People were outside shoveling their driveways, laughing, complaining about the cold like nothing had happened. But when we passed the stretch of road where I had seen the crash, there was nothing. No broken branches, no damaged trees, no tire marks, no signs of impact. It was as if the road had never been touched. I didn't say anything, neither did Ryan's dad, but the silence between us was thick, uncomfortable. I knew he didn't believe me, not fully. I went home and tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw those headlights cutting through the snow. I heard the engine running in an empty vehicle, and worst of all, I heard that voice. Help me. It haunted me. I kept replaying it in my head, wondering why it sounded wrong. Too clear, too close, like it hadn't traveled through the snow at all, like it had been right behind me. I've thought about that night countless times since then. I've tried to come up with logical explanations: stress, exhaustion, imagination, hallucination. But none of them explain everything. They don't explain how a plow could crash without leaving tracks. They don't explain how a voice could close distance that fast in deep snow. They don't explain why my gut told me, without words, that if I turned around, I wouldn't make it home. Some people say the mind fills in gaps when it's afraid. Maybe they're right. But sometimes, late at night, when snow is falling hard and the world goes quiet, I can't help but wonder, what if the plow was never real? What if it was bait? And what if the thing that called out to me that night is still out there, waiting for someone else to stop walking?
My name is Sebastian, but everyone calls me Sebi. This happened about 7 years ago, back when I was a sophomore in high school. I attended a private school in a nearby city, which meant I had to commute every single day by train. Morning train, afternoon train. It sounds exhausting, but it became routine, almost comforting. Most of my friends lived along the same line, and the commute turned into a moving hangout. I was a runner back then, track in the spring, cross-country in the fall. During the off-season, I usually caught the train right after school around 3 p.m. when it was nearly empty. But during the season, practice didn't end until after 5:30, and those evening trains were packed with tired commuters heading home. Luckily, my two best friends, Charles and James, were on the same team and lived on the same line. On late nights, at least, I wasn't alone. Until that night. The moment our train pulled out of the station, the snow started. Not gently, not gradually. It exploded into a full-blown blizzard within minutes, the kind that erases distance and swallows sound. The windows fogged up instantly, and the world outside vanished behind sheets of white. Midway through the ride, an announcement crackled over the speakers. Ours would be the last train running on that line. No more departures, no exceptions. A knot formed in my stomach. The snow only got worse. By the time we reached James and Charles's stop, the roads were already a disaster. Their parents lived nearby, close together, in a busy part of town. They'd be fine. I wouldn't. I called my parents from the train and explained everything. There was a long pause on the other end. Then my dad sighed and told me I didn't have much of a choice. Bundle up, be careful, walk home. When James and Charles got off the train, we hugged and joked like usual, but something felt off. The rest of the ride was quiet. One by one, the remaining passengers got off. By the time the train reached my station, I was alone. The doors slid open, and I stepped onto the platform.
The station was completely deserted. No cars, no people, no movement. Just me and a roaring blizzard. The snow reflected the station lights, bathing everything in a pale, ghostly glow. It was beautiful in a haunting way, like the world had been wiped clean. I stood there for a moment, staring out into the white void, feeling small. Then I started walking. Crossing the highway was easier than I expected. There wasn't a single car anywhere, not even snowplows. I actually stopped in the middle of the road, overwhelmed by how unreal it felt. After the highway came the woods, the long, dark stretch I'd always hated. I could have followed the road, but the wind was brutal, and the detour would have added a lot of distance. Against my better judgment, I stepped off the pavement and into the trees. I don't know how long I'd been walking, staring down at my boots, when something made me look up, and that's when I saw him. He was standing directly in my path, about 30 yards ahead, perfectly still, like he had been placed there on purpose. He was facing me, watching me. The snow whipped around him violently, yet he didn't seem to react to the cold at all. That's when I noticed his clothes. Short sleeves, shorts, in the middle of a blizzard. My brain struggled to make sense of it. His skin was pale, almost gray beneath the harsh light of the snow, and his face was twisted into a wide, unnatural smile. Not friendly, not human. I froze. Every survival instinct I had failed at once. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I just stared at him, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. Then, without warning, he screamed, a raw animal sound, full of rage and madness. In the same instant, he lunged forward and started charging at me. I snapped out of it and ran. Snow slowed me down, grabbing at my legs, stealing my balance. I screamed for help, even though I knew no one could hear me. The sound of his footsteps behind me was wrong. Too fast, too close. He was gaining on me. The chase felt endless. Seconds stretched into something unbearable. My lungs burned, my vision blurred, and I was sure I was going to fall. Then, suddenly, I burst out of the woods and onto the road. I didn't stop running until my feet hit pavement. Only then did I dare to turn around. He was gone. No figure, no movement, no sound. The woods stood silent, as if they had never held anything at all. But the fear didn't fade. As I walked the rest of the way home, one thought gnawed at my mind. The snow. My footprints were the only tracks on the ground. If that man had wanted to follow me, he could have done it effortlessly. When I reached my house, my parents were relieved until I told them what had happened. My dad wanted to go back out and look for him, but my mom refused. The storm was too dangerous, she said. Hours passed. Eventually, my parents went to bed. I tried to convince myself it was over. I was wrong. I couldn't sleep, not even for a minute. Every sound, the wind rattling the trees, the icy creak of my bedroom window made my heart leap. My mind kept replaying the twisted smile of that man, the way he had screamed, the unnatural speed, the impossibility of surviving the blizzard in short sleeves and shorts. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt distorted. Then it happened. A branch hit my window. A jolted upright, heart hammering. I waited. Nothing. Another tap, then another.
I pulled back the curtain and froze. There he was, the same man, standing inches from the glass. His skin now had a purple, almost frozen hue. His hair was gone, and a patchy gray beard framed his grotesque grin. His eyes were locked on mine. I dropped to the floor, screaming. My dad burst into the room just as the man turned and ran into the snow. My mom held him back, insisting we call the police. The officers arrived, trudging through the deep snow, but by the time they got there, he had vanished. No footprints, no tracks, nothing. They couldn't explain it. Neither could I. For weeks afterward, I couldn't be alone in my house. Every creak, every shadow, every distant howl of the wind brought that deranged smile back into my mind. I never saw him again. To this day, I have no explanation, no logic, no evidence, no closure. Just the memory of a man who shouldn't have existed, and the certainty that he had been waiting for me.